Howdy, Legendary Void here, and today I have another Wave X video, of course. And today we're going to be talking about a bunch of stuff. Of course, we only actually have one character to talk about, which is AUTOBOT NIGHTBEAT, which was the character that got voted on from the poll last week. Actually 2 weeks ago. I apologize for missing an upload last time. I was really busy and working on a lot of stuff, but yeah, we're going to be talking about that. We have quite a few battle cards and a few stratagems to look at as well, but let's go ahead and get into the AUTOBOT NIGHTBEAT. But before we do, make sure you check the description below to see how you can join the Transformers Custom Cards Facebook page so that you can see all of my cards whenever I post them on the Facebook page. There I post the actual images of the cards so you can download them and play with them if you want to right off the bat. But of course nothing is final quite yet until the set actually releases, so make sure you keep that in mind. But AUTOBOT NIGHTBEAT is a 292 6-star car melee, and whenever you flip to his alt mode, you get to name a battle card, and then your opponent reveals their hand and scraps all cards there with that name. Basically, he's a counter-espionage and doesn't apply to secret actions. So it's pretty nice just being able to just remove stuff from your opponent's hand if you know it's there, or even just take a stab in the dark, get rid of, say, Fusion Bore if you really don't like that. But yeah, he's a pretty nice card for disruption. I think he goes pretty well with Major Shockwave. And then in his bot mode, he's just ranged. He's a 391, and whenever you flip to his bot mode, you can scrap an upgrade from your hand to scrap a secret action your opponent has in play. So I imagine him using like a magnifying glass to uncover a scheme, and that scheme is the secret action, and it's basically being uncovered, and you know, they don't get to do it anymore because you know what's up. But yeah, basically that's all about NIGHTBEAT. He's kind of a support character. He's going to go in a lot of decks. He doesn't go in a lot of decks, but he'll be played in decks that like hand disruption. Next up is the FIRECON Frenzy stratagem. Now this one can only be played with Cindersaur, but it gives all of your FIRECONs +1 attack and +1 health. This kind of just puts them where they were probably supposed to be whenever they made them, giving them much higher health so they live longer, and also more attack so that they can actually deal damage. It definitely doesn't put them on the same ranking as a lot of other decks like, say, Sky Shadow or Insecticons, but it does give them a lot more opportunity to do stuff since they'll live longer, and they're also going to be trying to hit much harder than they would before. Next up, we do have a few battle cards to go through. The first one is going to be Dual Hammers, which is an orange weapon with the Wrecker restriction, and it can only be placed on Rack and Ruin. When the upgraded character is in bot 1 mode, he has bold 1, basically increasing the bold that he already would have. And whenever it's in bot 2 mode, you get to do 1 damage to an enemy in bot or body mode. Again, this weapon is literally just to increase both of Rack and Ruin's abilities, so that hopefully it makes him a bit stronger. The record tag is just so that you, if you try and go 3 wide with him, you'll be forced to only be able to do that on, say, Cup and Rack and Ruin, and then your third character won't be able to get that orange pip. But it might not be a necessary restriction, but I'm just gonna go for it for right now. If I see no reason to keep it on, then I'll get rid of it eventually. But next up is STARSCREAM'S SABER, which I've actually changed this card since I've posted on the Facebook page. The original was an orange weapon that can only be put on Starscream, and whenever he attacks a ranged or melee character, he gets Pierce 3, and he gives +3 attack. So basically it becomes a permanent Fusion Bore, but that obviously seems way too strong. So I've changed it instead to a blue weapon. You can only put on Starscream, and whenever he attacks a melee character, he has Pierce 3, and it only gives +2 attack now. So it's a little bit, it's like an inverse Energon X. Instead of giving Pierce 2, it's +2 attack, and instead of giving +3 attack, it's Pierce 3. So, and it's only against melee characters, so it is a little bit weaker, I guess. I could have kept it against range, but again, that's 2/3 of all characters in existence, so I don't really want to make him extremely strong. It is blue, so that if you decide to play the Null Ray and this in a deck, it'll kind of throw off your pip flow. But otherwise, I think it's a pretty neat card. Next up is Powerful Aura, which this is one card I'm super excited about. It's an armor utility, just like how Crystal of Power is a weapon armor. This is an armor utility, so it just kind of like slides down the row a little bit. It's white pip, and when the upgraded character defends, you get to do 2 damage to the attacker and scrap it after the battle. It gives +2 defense. So it does scrap sort of like Crystal of Power, and it does have the direct damage capability, so it's kind of nice there. Plus the +2 defense already, it just makes it incredibly strong. So I didn't think it was worth a star, because it didn't give, if it gave attack value, then I would say yes, it's worth a star, but because it doesn't, I think it's perfectly fine since it scraps after the battle. Plus it does take 2 of your upgrade slots, so you have to keep that in mind. Next up for battle cards, we're going to be looking at Coming Aboard, which this is a orange action with the melee restriction, and you get to do 2 damage to one of your melee characters, and if you do, you get to deal 2 damage to an enemy. So basically, it's a little bit weaker of a K-main crash, but if it KOs a character, you get to do 1 damage to each enemy. So basically, if one of your characters, if it can be either character, your character or your opponent's, but if one of them dies, it becomes an armed hovercraft as well, making it extremely strong. So you got to play this right if you want to use it to its most potential, but I think it's a nice card for melee characters to abuse since they don't get very much support anyways. Next up is Firing Squad, which this card's pretty interesting. You may play it on your turn if you go first, which I believe this is the first card to ever have something similar to that, but you get to do damage to an enemy equal to how many more characters you had at the beginning of the game than your opponent, which typically, if you're running 4 wide, it's going to be just 1 or 2. If you're going 6 wide or even 5 wide, then it's probably going to be anywhere from 2 to 3 damage, but Firing Squad's really only good with the wide teams. I wanted to give wide teams a nice action that they can play against those taller teams. Next is Transport Shuttle, which I am actually, this is one of the battle cards I'm most proud of, and I know a lot of people kind of like this one, but it's a blue-black utility that gives stealth, and when the upgraded character would take damage, you get to scrap it and draw a card, and it's any kind of damage, attack damage, indirect damage, your own damage. So say if you came in, crash the character, it'll scrap and you draw a card. So it's very versatile. And one thing I'm trying to do with this set is I'm trying to make a ton of blue and black playable cards, because the ones we have right now aren't exactly the best in the world. Point Position, Steady Shot, Smoke Cloak, they're all just not very good. So I'm trying to do my best to make quite a few of the blue-black cards and, you know, make them playable, because I want to make blue-black something to, as a force to be reckoned with. So next up is Upgrades Upgrade, which I'm very proud of that name, you know. I spent a lot of time thinking about it. But now this one's very similar to Wave 1's combat training, in that instead of giving Bold 1 and Tough 1, whenever the upgraded character has a weapon, they have +1 attack, and when the upgraded character has an armor, it gives +1 defense. So a tad bit stronger. Combat training saw little to no play ever. So it only makes sense that you take it the next step up and maybe it will see play. I can see this being played in things like Astro Train or General Megatron, things that like having a lot of weapons and a lot of armors. So of course, Upgrades Upgrade is pretty nice there, even though it is a little bit of a mouthful. And another set of stratagems I have were all revealed in a Transforming Game Primus video, which we got to do a lot of fun stuff with a few different stratagems. The first one being an Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend one. It's called Till All Are One, and your Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend has +1 health. So that puts him up at 15, which is probably where he should have been to begin with. That's why I kind of did it. But once per game while your Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend is in the battlefield, and when your other Autobots gets KO'd, you get to untap your Optimus Prime, or attack the character that KO'd your Autobot with him if he is untapped. Then you flip it. So basically, if, say, you have Optimus Prime and Nova Star on a team, Nova Star dies, Optimus Prime, if he's untapped, will attack the character that KO'd Nova Star. Otherwise, you would just untap him because he's tapped. He can't attack while he's tapped, so it only makes sense that there should be 2 options there, because if you can't use it, then it's kind of just a waste of a star if you played it and it doesn't get to do anything. So anyways, this is very strong. Just being able to untap a 13-star character is incredibly good, as well as also just getting a free out of combat attack. It's not free because obviously he becomes tapped at that point, but it's nice being able to just do that without your opponent being able to say anything about it. Next is an Elita 1 stratagem from Wave 3, I believe. The Warrior Returns Alive. It's a nice little Yu-Gi-Oh reference there. But once per game, when you flip an Autobot to bot mode, you may return Elita 1 Special Ops Ranger from the KO area to the battlefield, repair 1 damage from her, and then at the end of the turn, KO her. Basically, once you flip an Autobot to bot mode, you get to I Still Function her, which will also let her get an extra attack, as well as triggering her Leap of Faith ability in her bot mode, again, whenever she dies. So it's a nice little star card there if you want to try and do some shenanigans with that. Next up is KABLAM, which is a Warpath stratagem. It gives him +3 health, bringing him up to 9. And then whenever he's in alt mode, he has stealth, basically protecting him from any initial hits right off the bat. So that's kind of nice there, preventing your opponent from getting tough for at least a little bit is kind of nice. Next is Acid Storm stratagem, which is called Stormy Weather. I think I'm probably going to change it to what someone said in the comments. I believe it was Make It Rain. I might change that in post, but you know. your Acid Storm Toxic Terror has +1 defense, so obviously that'll raise that up a little bit, giving him not just 0, but 1. But whenever he's in alt mode, he also has stealth, so it's similar to how Warpath Stratagem was to buff what his weakest stat was, as well as also protecting him from that one-hit KO at the beginning of the game. So obviously, Acid Storm needed defense and Warpath needed health, so we're going to address that on both of them. And the last card we have to talk about today is My Time Will Come, which I know a lot of people are big fans of this one. It's a star card for Captain Starscream from, I believe, Wave 3, maybe Wave 4. The Siege ones kind of blend together, but before the game begins, you get to reveal a Vaporize and a Ramming Speed from your deck and put them in your hand, and your Captain Starscream has +1 attack, static in both modes. So basically, it increases your hand size at the beginning of the game by 2, as well as also giving you the option of immediately dropping your opponent's upgrades as soon as they play them, at least for the first 2. As well as also giving the +1 attack, which makes him a 5/16/2 and a 7/16/1. So it makes him a lot more competitive than he was before. And also, I think it will increase the likelihood that he gets played, because being able to remove upgrades is very, very strong, and being able to start with both of those cards in your hand is incredibly good as well. And I believe that is all the new characters that were revealed these last 2 weeks. Again, I apologize for not uploading. It's been a busy few days, but I do have another character to add to the poll this week. It's going to be, of course, the choices between HARDHEAD, Autobot HARDHEAD, Autobot SKIDS, and the new character we're going to be adding is Decepticon Blastoff. Now, Blastoff is a Combaticon, if I remember correctly, but I'm not going to be doing a combiner for him. I think he's just going to be a standalone character in the set. So if you want to see what he looks like, don't forget to vote in the comments below, as well as joining the Custom Cards Facebook page, because I will be posting up a poll the day of recording this, actually. So if you want to vote there and in the comments below, I will be counting the votes from both places. So if you want to double vote for a specific character, don't forget to do that. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I really do appreciate all the support for Wave X. And as always, have a phenomenal day. Peace.